back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. And tonight, for our interest and elucidation, we are going to be talking all about missing things, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So when I say missing things, what kinds of missing things am I talking about? Well, there's quite a lot of it, turns out. Things that have vanished without a trace. And you start to wonder where they may all have gone. So, as we dive on in, let's see if we can find out where these missing things may have come from, even if we don't know where they are gone. So as we get started, I'm going to remind everybody on this channel we have just one rule, and that is don't be rude. You can agree, you can disagree, but as long as you are polite about it, and I remind you that we neither promote nor deride anything on this channel. We do it wholly and solely for our own interest and curiosity. So, as we get going, let's talk about missing things, and please do interact. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and do all of the good things that are so important to promote the channel. Make sure that you send lots of gifts, because we need them. And to those who do all of the good things for us, we thank you greatly. So as we get started, so we're going to start with some cars, vehicles, interesting, unique, celebrity-owned classics, and in some cases, once-off automobiles. So, welcome. Welcome to Mickey. I saw you pop in there. Hope you are doing fantastic. Hey there to Promise. Welcome. So, what strange things have gone missing? Well, the first one is rather interestingly called the Blue Lady. And if you're wondering what it is a 1967 Shelby GT500, a really fancy vehicle indeed, and one which in fact was owned by none other than Jim Morrison, which is pretty cool. Now, he was the lead singer of The Doors, as we know, and in 1971, when he passed away, his car vanished. Some say it was abandoned somewhere in an airport parking lot. Others say it was wrecked in a drunken joyride or salvaged and sold. But whatever actually happened to it, it disappeared, and nobody knows where at all, which is kind of cool for a car as famous as that. However, of course, one of the interesting things about it is they say that the car itself was cursed, and anybody that drove it would have a terrible accident, which seems to imply that maybe, just maybe, it disappeared because somebody knew this and made sure it couldn't hurt another person. Who's to say? The next one is a Bugatti Type 57 SC Atlantic, known as La Voiture Noire. One of the most valuable missing cars in the entire world. There were only 4 ever made, and World War II approached, and the designer Ertuğrul Bugatti reportedly sent the car on a train to protect it from German forces, but it vanished somewhere between Molsheim and Bordeaux. It would be worth today around $100 million. Now that is quite the car. So if you're ever in France, let's face it. Mickey, how are you doing?
I'm okay, thanks to yourself.
Yeah, I'm good. So, at your suggestion with the video you sent on the missing plane, I started looking into missing things, and it turns out there's a lot of stuff that really is quite interesting that has gone missing. And as I say, this latest one was a car made by the famous Ettore Bugatti, and only 4 were ever made. And this one went missing somewhere in France, worth today $100 million, and it's never been found.
Sure, that's crazy.
Yeah, if you could find it, I think 100 million would go down quite well.
Yeah.
But the next one is a little creepy. Now, you've heard of James Dean, right?
Yeah.
Well, he had a fatal car crash in 1955 in his Porsche 550 Spider, which he used to call the little bastard.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the wreckage was sold for parts, but these parts, every car they were put into, was subsequently involved in further horrific accidents, which implied the car was cursed.
For sure.
So the remaining shell was being transported for a display in 1960 in a sealed and locked boxcar, and it vanished. And it's never been seen since.
Oh, shoot.
So maybe it was cursed or possessed, and it left back to hell.
That was weird.
Now, you've seen the James Bond movies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you have seen Goldfinger, one of the earlier ones, James Bond drove a Aston Martin DB5, and there were 2 actual cars used in the movies in 1964, and one of them was stolen from the airplane hangar in Boca Raton in Florida in 1997. Now, despite having all kinds of specialized gadgets and more, the car vanished. And it's never been seen again, except once, allegedly, maybe, in the Middle East. They don't,
Oh, that's crazy.
right? Now, they don't give a price on it, but I'm pretty sure you could get a couple of million for that. The original movie car. Well, if you like your movie cars, though, you know in Back to the Future, there was a DeLorean, the famous car that got them back to the future. Okay. Well, several cars were actually used, but one specific car was the stunt vehicle, and it just disappeared after filming, and nobody knows where it is. So somebody, somebody who was a big fan nicked the car.
That's crazy.
I know, right? Now, here's another one which I thought was very cool, which was the Invisible Woman and Child, a 1940s era vehicle that pulled off to the side of the road in front of witnesses and vanished, complete with driver and passenger. In front of people. So we're going to have a look into all of these, of course, but the Algar Ferrari from the FBI Mystery series was stolen from a dealership in 2003, and it disappeared. However, it was found, but not by the owner. The car was reportedly seen being driven by unknown individuals who then crashed it. The car then vanished again, leading to legal disputes whether or not the FBI had it somewhere and wasn't giving it up because it was a very rare Ferrari, or if perhaps it just crashed somewhere and is rotting in a ditch.
That's true.
So, yeah. Some very interesting thing. Now, here's one which I thought was kind of strange, not just because it vanished. They made a 1935 Type 57 aerolith Bugatti with a magnesium frame. Now, it's vanished, but here's the thing. Magnesium burns really hot. And I would not want to drive a car like that. I literally have got a ferrocerium rod that I use for lighting fires, and with it comes a magnesium bar, because magnesium burns at up to 6,000 degrees. Can you imagine being in a car that caught fire that burnt at 6,000 degrees?
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, it would not be good for you at all. Another interesting thing is that not that they disappeared, but that they were found. So in Switzerland, these hikers discovered a cave, and in it were hundreds of cars. And nobody knows where they came from or how they got there.
It's weird.
So it seems the finding is as weird as the losing. So let's look at the really, really good ones in a bit more depth. So we know that the little bastard, of course, was cursed. And one of the key things about that is they do say certain parts might still be in circulation. Now, it was involved with so many different accidents that it was taken in by the National Safety Council and used purely as a display item, because just everything crashed that had a piece in it. And so they rebuilt it and put it on display, and then it vanished. Went back to
Crazy.
hell.
Just,
Now, a luxury car, a Renault Type CB Coupe de Ville, was brought aboard the rather famous RMS Titanic. Now,
Titanic Aladdin.
right, yes, that one, because it belonged to a first-class passenger, William E. Carter, and it was listed officially among the cargo. Now, we know that the ship went down, but when they did send like these video drone things down in to check out inside the Titanic, the car isn't there.
Oh, that's weird.
So, but we can't ask the owner because, of course, he did go down with the Titanic. Bit of a problem there. Now, one does wonder when it comes to the DeLoreans, okay, there were 7 in total that we used in the trilogy of Back to the Future. One ended up in a Planet Hollywood in Hawaii for a while and vanished. Nobody knows where. There it was in Hawaii, hanging from the ceiling, but gone. So
Yes. Somebody must have stolen it from me.
I suspect they did, but why would you want something that you could never tell anybody that you had?
I can give an answer for that. I totally would do something like that.
Oh, you wicked, wicked person.
Oh, you see, I have no fingerprints, so no.
Ah, yeah, point taken, point taken. You could do it. Mind you, I think something as famous as a DeLorean um, might give you away.
If I had a big enough garage or something, I'd be like, dude.
Point, point. Yeah, I could do that. But
Spooky.
Hello.
Spooky, are you alive? How are
Okay.
you doing?
I'm good.
I'm glad to hear
So,
it.
what are you guys up to?
We are talking about things that went missing. Some of them are just strange. Some of them are very, very, very valuable. One car that went missing was worth about 100 million. Hey, Jack, welcome, welcome. So, if you find somewhere in France, this car is said to be, it's worth $100 million. Jaden, you need to stop changing your name every time. I never can figure who you are. But welcome nevertheless. Would you like to join the live? You are welcome, of course. Missing things, including cars that are worth 100 million bucks. Oh no, why can I not multi-guest you? What did you do that was naughty?
Oh dear.
I think he has way too much fun on TikTok, which is possibly a good thing. But nevertheless, we are glad you are here, and do comment on any of the cars and planes. These ones that we're going to get into now are haunted. Now, the first one we know all about, which of course is James Dean's car, which according to Alec McGuinness, the famous British actor, he said to James Dean, "Don't ever get into that car." Well, he did, and it was his end. He said, "Please don't get into that car, because if you do," and I looked at my watch and I said, "If you get into that car at all," it's now Thursday, 10 o'clock at night, and by 10 o'clock next Thursday, you will be dead if you get into that car. That's what Alex Guinness said to James Dean. And he was right. 7 days later, he died in an almost head-on collision on California State Route 46 on his way to a racing event. Now, we know as well the car carried on taking other people when bits of it were put in other cars. And eventually the body just vanished. Of the
Crazy.
people that it got, George Barris, the automotive legend, took it apart, sold the engine and drivetrain to two different racers, William Estrich and Dr. Troy McHenry. Estrich was seriously injured in an accident, and McHenry was killed in the same race. So over the years, where the Spider went, it was displayed in a museum. It caught fire. Interestingly, it was part of an exhibit showing the consequence of dangerous driving. The Porsche wasn't damaged in the fire.
So I've got a question.
Yes,
So the numbers you are giving, like 100 million.
Yes.
What currency is it?
dollars.
USD.
US dollars. Today it is worth 100 million US dollars, that car,
Okay.
if you can find it. Now, Jaden wants to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Why Jeffrey Epstein? What has he done now? I thought he was in jail.
He's dead. He
Oh,
committed
yes,
suicide.
that's right. Yeah. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the believed story, yes.
Yes, we remember. I remember reading a description of the scene and thinking, now, you know, I was a crime reporter for years, And I remember thinking, no, he didn't, because he couldn't have got up
Yeah.
there.
Well, it doesn't seem like.
And then I thought to myself,
I think.
saying this is bad in case they come and convince you otherwise.
Well, I haven't seen the media saying anything about him, but fake. That saying that it's fake, that he didn't kill himself.
Oh,
But I
I'm pretty
do
sure
know
he
Jeffrey
didn't.
Epstein a lot currently in politics. Like
No,
everybody's talking about it.
the problem is, I think, is that he was accused at the very least of hosting special parties where unwilling young ladies were served as dessert and all kinds of other things, including very, very young peoples, and so forth. And the problem is not that he did it or that it happened alone. I mean, obviously, it's a very big problem, but it was who was on the guest list.
Yes.
And everybody wants
So everybody
to know.
keeps on shouting, "Release the files! Release the Epstein files!"
Yes.
And yeah, so they think a lot of politicians and some
Oh, I'm
rich guys.
pretty sure that there was. Though, to my vast amusement, one of the people who was genuinely a guest on his island was Stephen Hawkins, who was a quadriplegic. What was he
Yeah,
gonna
he couldn't do anything.
You know, I'm just saying, in
But,
terms
but
of...
he's dead now. He died recently, so.
Yes, he did as well. So
Yeah.
there are
But
issues.
there's nothing they could do to him. I mean, even if he breaks a crime, I'm not sure if he's capable of committing crimes.
Hacking,
But what are they going to do? Arrest him?
right?
They're going to have to
You know,
feed him.
we'll put you in jail. Yes, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a bad
Just
apple.
make sure you've got somebody permanently standing next to me feeding me.
Well, exactly. I mean, how's it going to change anything from his real life at all?
Yeah.
Now, one thing I don't know about, because I don't follow a lot of Hollywood news, is what's the big deal with P. Diddy? And why are they making jokes about him and oil?
No, I've got no idea. It's the first time
I've seen now
anything about
4 or
oil.
5 of them that have popped up on the feed.
He's apparently, he apparently had a big group of orgies. Lots of orgies
Yes,
with a lot of
so
people.
Well,
he's also got some parties
I
and
wouldn't...
hosted some parties for rich people.
Yeah, that would not surprise me. I mean, he was known to occasionally let it snow and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But he was who he was. But what's the connection of him to oil?
The first time I'm hearing anything about him and oil.
Well, I saw
Oil.
a thing
Maybe
where
oil.
one
Maybe
of...
oil, Vaseline.
Maybe, because they were whining on about there was a picture like a cartoon. Oh, okay, there you go. He put it on people because there was a cartoon with him in a jail cell with one of the presidents.
Okay, so it's
whose
like baby oil or something.
Yeah, but the country had a lot of oil, so the US went to rescue the country because it had
Okay.
oil. And he as well was, attended to by the government because, well, obviously he had oil at the parties. Okay, I get it now. Oh, you know what? When you have more money than sense, and a lot of these big actors do, let's be honest, they get bored, and what do? I mean,
They have orgies.
pretty much,
Even orgies can get boring.
This is it. I mean, it becomes, you can only really spend so much money before you run out of ordinary things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of dumb. I know a guy, he works as a barman in the Middle East somewhere in one of these really, really big swanky hotels. Uh, not a barman, sorry, a mixologist, which is like
Yeah.
the elite of the barman. Okay. And he says they get a lot of these like mega millionaires coming in, and they're always trying to impress each other. There's one guy that will never arrive at the bar in the same car, ever. And he's in there 2 or 3 nights a week. So it's like a show off, you know. Check how much I've got, I can prove it. And the one
It's
guy,
normally people that steal money because people who work really hard for their money, they don't go and waste their money like that.
but they're not exciting and you don't hear about them. They're the ones that
Well,
quietly retire and never have to work again with billions.
I like people like Elon Musk. Now, he probably owns more cars than any other billionaire
Well, I
because he
was,
makes thousands of cars per day.
well, there's that. I was reading a really interesting story the other day about Walker Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris, the man himself. And
Yeah.
apparently, they hate him in the sort of Hollywood media because he's boring. He's a nice guy. He's got a farm where he lives. He doesn't waste his money. He drives a beat-up old pickup truck. He eats at the local diner. He's just a genuine nice guy. And he supports
Yeah.
a ton of charities. But no parties, no craziness, no drugs, no nothing. So he's boring.
Well, you'll be surprised how many multi-millionaires there are that likes to go and live on a ranch
Well,
away from people.
yeah, Chuck Norris is a genuine cowboy type guy. He really can ride horses and do all of the fancy things like that. So, because he never does anything, he's boring. He lives a normal, happy life and supports his charities. So, yeah, we have that. Nevertheless, so yeah, baby oil and P. Diddy. Well, if that's your thing. Now, as we know, we need to talk about the Black Volga of Eastern Europe. So in the 60s and 70s, in Eastern Europe, a black car was seen driving around the streets, usually in the Soviet Union, but sometimes reports of it in Poland, Romania, and Hungary, Belarus, Ukraine, Greece, even Mongolia. Now, the car in question generally was thought, at least, to be some kind of BMW or Mercedes, but generally, those that said that they knew cars for the Eastern Bloc countries, they said it was a Volga, a Russian model that was very popular in the Soviet Union. And from what I understand, it was a well-made car. It was a great car. Many of them were made, but this particular one, nobody knew where the car came from, where it was going, or who was driving it. Now, of course, people started talking, saying maybe it was like underground criminals or secret political groups. Jaden is running. Bye, Jaden. Thanks for stopping by. Your dad used to have 100 million. I wish he did. I would borrow some. So this particular car kept getting seen until now. Remember, this is Cold War time. So spies, spying, secret missions, secret police, people disappearing. It was a big deal. So people started getting very worried about it, you know, and not for supernatural reasons necessarily, at least not in the beginning. Then they started hearing stories that it might be even cultists, or perhaps the driver was the devil himself, because according to stories, wherever the car was seen, mysterious abductions and deaths of random people just occurred. Like people that had nothing to do with nothing or anything. They weren't political, they weren't important necessarily, just random people, poof. So people started wondering, what is this? Obviously for the time, the rumors started going that they were murdered so their blood could be used for cures for rich Westerners, evidently because it was a Soviet state. However, what made it even interesting, because of the difficulties in the Soviet Union at the time, the Volga was only ever made in black to save on paint, because the government was poor, the people were poor. And of course, the Volga was a particularly favorite vehicle of the NKVD, the secret police of the Soviet. And no, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the proper name of it, because, don't grin at me, Mickey. I can see you grinning. Yes, my ability to speak Russian is pretty awful.
You're pretty good though.
You think
Not
so?
too bad.
Well, I have been learning Romanian, which is a lot easier than Russian. I will say that. And
When you said
yes.
when you said missing vehicles, were you only talking about cars or?
No, we're getting on to some other things as well. We've got a number. We just started with cars. Hey, Jacob. So, now, some of these stories may have been blown up, encouraged. However, in some of the stories, people said that it wasn't merely abductions, that people would be walking down the road. Most people walked in the Soviet Union at the time, and the car would drive past, and they would somehow simply be sucked inside with no apparent people or their volition. They were just whoosh and they're gone. And one story goes that a witness saw a pair of girls vanish into the vehicle like this. And our very brave bystander, or possibly very foolish, ran to the car and ripped the door open, and inside there was nothing. No people, no driver, no girls. And then there was a blinding flash, and our would-be hero woke up 24 hours later with a pounding headache and no idea what had happened at that point.
Yeah, so I can tell you what happened.
Go for it.
Well, it was kidnappers which grabbed the kids and they kidnapped them, and he got hit against the head with a baseball bat for intervening.
Maybe, but he said the car was completely empty.
Well, he couldn't remember, and he
Could be. But I do like the
probably
idea
opened the wrong
of
door.
the sneaky one. Now, in other cases, anybody that went near the car apparently just dropped dead. Or the voice from inside would say, without opening the window, you will die at this time. And within the next 24 hours, at that time, they did.
Sure.
So the stories got more and more weird, but then people started saying that there were particular things. The number plate contained the numbers 666. There were certain things like white wheels or tire rims that were only sometimes visible, or ram's horns where the side mirrors ought to be. And then after the collapse of the Soviet Union, these stories just vanished. Now, of course, I'm sure a lot of them were made up, but
Yeah.
you never know. There may have been some truth. So the Black Volga is good, and the name is pretty cool, you got to admit. And the next one has a boring name, the number 7 bus. Now, if you've ever been to London, I have, one of the things that makes London London are the red London buses. They really are real. They're an amazingly cheap way to get around, and you see them all over London. They are excellent. And I must say, if anyone's got the transport system going right, London does have that going for them. So they're kind of a symbol of London, you know, the bus. But they're not as comforting when they're screaming down the road towards you in the dead of night. And that is what the number 7 was known for.
Oh, shit.
So, unlike the one in Harry Potter, which stops to pick you up, this one is slightly less friendly. So one driver was driving down the road, and all of a sudden this bus appeared through the mist, and he swerved to avoid it, crashing into a wall. London is narrow in many streets, and the car burst into flames. And he jumped out the car, and witnesses ran over and, "Are you all right?" and all the rest of it. And they all said they saw this number 7 bus. And then it drove slowly away and just vanished into thin air. So, it's like Christine, but a bus. You remember Christine,
Yeah.
don't you?
Yeah,
I know
I
you
do.
like your Stephen King.
Yeah, I know, Chris.
Absolutely. It was a good movie. They made it well.
It was really, no, I loved it.
So this happened first in the 1930s. And for the next 60 years, up until the late 1990s, the bus was witnessed by hundreds of other drivers and pedestrians who all said they had near misses with it, and some who had accidents. Most agreed, though, that the number 7 appeared around Cambridge Gardens, usually at around 1:15 a.m., where no buses were supposed to run at that time. Now, since the area was reconstructed in the 90s, the bus seems to have vanished and is no longer seen. But if you are ever driving around Cambridge Garden at 1:15, do be careful just in case, because you never know. There are possibilities. What do they say? Objects in the mirror might be closer than they seem. Now here's one that's closer to home. Cape Town. So imagine you're in Cape Town and it's a lovely night, as it often is in the right time of year. In the wrong time of year, not so much, but there's a family asleep after a dinner party with some friends, and they're woken by the sound of somebody revving a car engine. Now, the immediate thought, as absolutely every South African will automatically think, is they're stealing my car. So they jump out their beds and sprint outside. But there were no intruders. Their car, a Renault Megane apparently, had turned on its own with nobody in it. So the family inspected the car and there were no keys in the ignition, so they called the police. The law enforcement arrived and they were understandably a bit skeptical about this, like, so nobody was stealing your car. Well, we'll arrest nobody then, shall we? I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I know.
So they decided that there's nothing to be done, and the cops are about to leave when the car switches on. And then it started bouncing back and forth, revving and revving and revving in front of the poor family and the cops, who are now not impressed with any of this.
Yeah.
Okay. And then eventually it bounced into a tree, crashed, and the engine switched off because the car's now wrecked. Now, no less than 9 people, including police, saw this happen. Now, the official company stance is that we doubt this severely. Some said maybe a faulty starter motor and a rusty cable caused a short circuit. But then why did it roar like that, like somebody was gunning the gas? So what was it? Nobody has been able to explain how this car became possessed or why. Or what
Might
the
be
hell
friends with your
Christy,
yeah, it could be
right?
friends with your TV ghost, you know.
Oh yeah, I must give you an update on the TV ghost. The TV ghost is no longer in the TV. Apparently, our replacement TV is not good enough. It does not wish to bother the TV anymore. So it's now jumped between cell phones and the lighting around the place. So I can go and turn the light on if I go into the bathroom at night, and I run a bath, the light's on, everything's great, get in and the light switch is off. It's still switched on at the plug because I've got out and checked, but it don't work. So I finish up in the dark, as you do, because what else are you going to do? Get out and click, it comes on again, now that I'm done.
Oh, it's making fun of you now.
Right? It gets more. The other day, one of the girls that stay here, her cell phone decides at around 1 in the morning, for no apparent reason, now's a good time to start playing music on YouTube app. Her phone was switched off
Oh, that's so
in the middle of the
weird.
night. So we're like,
She was
okay,
probably sleep,
well, no.
like sleepwalking, but pressing buttons on her phone, but she was still sleeping.
No, because it woke up herself and her boyfriend. And they had plugged it in where the plug is, away from her. And he's like, what the hell? What are you doing? And she's like, nothing. And she was away from it.
That's weird.
So apparently the TV ghost has moved to other things because the TV is not good enough.
It's making fun of you now. It's like,
It
screw
is.
you, take away my
But
TV.
it's never been like nasty about things.
Yeah,
So,
it's just
you know,
making
it's every now and then it takes over and listens to music, plays videos on your phones, wanders around, messes with you turning lights on and off,
It's funny.
right? So I don't know. There you go.
Well, I've got ghosts closing and opening doors.
Do tell.
Oh, shit.
Do tell. I like the idea.
Well, I'm not sure what is closing and opening cupboard doors and
Oh, my
just
word.
the bathroom door.
So it just happens.
It just happens randomly, yeah. I would sit and just suddenly I'll hear a tweet and I'll look and then I'll see the cupboard doors open.
Oh, my word. That's
Okay.
crazy.
That's just really weird.
Well,
Maybe.
I don't know. Now, I had a thought, by the way, that one vehicle that we spoke about that was incredibly rare, that was made from magnesium, given how hot magnesium burns, is it possible that it could have just burnt to dust? And they never found the parts because, I mean, magnesium burns hot enough to burn steel.
well, I've seen electric car in those batteries. That's fire. It just burns the entire car away.
Yeah, and in this one, they made the entire body out of magnesium. I don't know. But let's move along to an interesting one. Not as modern as all that, because this one is not a car, but a horse-drawn wagon. In the mountains of East Tennessee, there is a man driving a horse-drawn wagon with a woman next to him. And on a certain very twisty road in the early mornings, you can see them riding down the road. But what makes it very interesting is this ancient vehicle is seen even today. And it's seen moving at a slow speed, and a number of motorists have almost had terrible accidents trying to avoid this thing, ghost, whatever. But those that couldn't avoid and that hit it say there's nothing there when you do. And when you look back behind you, it's gone. So it seems now that there are things. Now, what's very, very interesting, and Mickey, you missed this rather on the last live, which I thought was very interesting. We've got a vehicle like that on the main highway going over Paradise Valley. So it does seem that these things happen. We get various possible ghost vehicles that appear and disappear. So there you go. So vanishing vehicles do go on. So train cars on locomotives, buggies, and of course modern cars as well. Oh no, is your phone dying?
Yeah.
Don't
Sorry.
let it die. Don't die
Trying
for
to
me,
save it.
little android. I shouldn't sing. Now, there's an interesting story that was actually collected up in a ghost story collection by the daughter of the crime writer Anne Rule, interestingly enough. So it was Leslie Rule that collected it. And it begins in 1929 with the building of the Cooper River Bridge, also known as the John P. Grace Memorial Bridge, over Charleston in South Carolina on the Cooper River and Town Creek. And what makes it very interesting is that in 1946 there was a rather ghastly accident on the bridge. So February 24 of that year, a ship called the Nicaragua Victory was anchored in Charleston Harbor near the Cooper River Bridge, and the captain of the ship gave his crew orders to take up the slack in the anchor chains to keep the ship more or less in one place. But the crew misunderstood the order and raised the anchor altogether, and the ship started to drift too close to the bridge. Now, a married couple named Bill and Dorothy Clapper were on the bridge, which apparently is about 2.71 miles long, 150 feet above the river. And when their car was passed by a green Oldsmobile driven by Elmer Lawson, I don't know who Elmer Lawson is, but In the car were Lawson's wife, Evelyn, his mother, Rose, his son and daughter, Robert and Diana. Robert was a 7-year-old and Diana was merely 3. Now, later on, in a 2005 interview, Dorothy Clapper recalled that the Lawsons' car passed there and the 2 children waved at them. Just as they got back in their traffic lane, the Victory, now adrift, slammed into the bridge, causing a 240-foot span of it to collapse into the river. Now, the Clappers were very lucky because they were able to stop in time and the bit that they were on didn't go down. But the Lawsons, ahead of them, went into the river and all 5 were killed when the Oldsmobile hit the water. And it took days to recover the bodies and 6 months to repair the bridge. Now, what's very interesting about that is from that time on, right up until the bridge was dismantled in the 1990s, there were reports of people driving along the bridge, especially in February, when they would be passed by an old green Oldsmobile that stopped and started erratically. The most detailed family was from a family of 5 that reported that as they passed the strange old car, they saw a family inside it, all of them lifeless and pale, eyes set, and clearly all of them were dead. The driver driving the car, scared nearly out of his mind, stopped his car and checked back, and right in front of his eyes, the Oldsmobile just disappeared.
Crazy.
So, yeah, he didn't have a good day with that at all, as you can imagine. Now, the old Cooper River Bridge has since been replaced by an 8-lane Ravenel Bridge, and there has never been another sighting of the Lawson family. So clearly it was just on the bridge there. Now, another one that mystified 3 witnesses from Louisiana about 4 decades ago, but might not be a ghost story, but a time slip. So something maybe was weird about this. Now, this story was originally told on the Unexplained Mysteries of the 20th Century in 1987. So we are not completely certain of the actual veracity, but it is said to be completely true. So 2 men, Elsie and Charlie, were traveling Highway 167 between Lafayette and Abbeville in Louisiana, and they spotted ahead of them a car. And what was interesting is that it was a 1940s model, so quite an old one, so they noticed it. It was 1967 when they spotted it, but the car was driving erratically. Weirdly, the woman driving the car was wearing clothing and a hat from the 1940s. And she seemed to be lost, looking out the windshield and the sign windows and all. And when the 2 men drew alongside, they saw in the car with the woman was a small girl, standing on the seat by the woman's shoulder, looking frightened. Charlie, on the passenger side, rolled down the window and shouted across, "Do you need any help?" And she indicated yes, she did. So they pulled over into the shoulder and the woman pulled in as well, right behind them. And they got out the car and turned to walk back to help her, and the car was gone. Now, they're out in the desert. There's nothing there. There's nowhere for anybody to go. 1 minute the car's right behind them, and then when they've got out, it's gone. Now, the story kind of ends there because Elsie and Charlie and an unidentified man that was with them wondered exactly what the hell had happened. And they obviously stayed in contact because they verified the story and they all tell the same thing. But there were never any other sightings of this woman or her child or this car, and nobody was known to have gone missing there. And so it's thought that, in fact, what had happened is it was a time slip, and she was lost because she had managed to get somewhere where she didn't recognize. And maybe somewhere out there is an old granny who remembers getting lost in the road and couldn't figure out where she was briefly. Maybe. It's a cool story, nevertheless. What do you think? Do you think time slips are possible? I don't know.
Yeah.
You say yes.
Yeah.
I think it could be. I mean, we now know that time is not as constant as we originally thought it was. Science has proved that. It's very difficult to modify time, but you can do it. And maybe if just the right conditions occur, you can slip between.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah.
I wonder what would happen if I slipped between and appeared 20 years ago or 100 years ago.
It'd be so scary. Sure.
And what if you never came back? I would invest in Microsoft. I'm just saying. And do not invest in Betamax.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah, but you know how that ends. Stories like that. Because the future always changes. If you go back to the past, things are not going to work out.
with my luck, you're probably right. Yeah. Not
You're
so
going to
cool.
invest in Microsoft and
Somebody
they're all
else
corrupt
does
and
it.
they stole your money.
Yeah, right. Well, if cars can go missing, what about aeroplanes? And we've got a couple.
The Bermuda Triangle.
Well, some of them not so much. So flight MH370, Malaysia Airlines. Okay, interesting. There are a few. Absolutely Egypt Air Flight 990, Amelia Earhart, of course. So Amelia Earhart is the first female flying ace, really, and she was amazing. And she decided to circumnavigate the globe in 1937. She was flying with her navigator, Captain Fred Noonan, over the Pacific. Yes, over the Bermuda Triangle. And of course, there was a major effort to find her plane because she was an amazing person and a famous person and a very, very skilled pilot. And she was never ever found, nor was her plane. And people have never stopped looking, but they've never actually managed to find it. So maybe somewhere at the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle, or maybe in another time. Another interesting one was Air France Flight 447 from Rio de Janeiro to Paris in 2009. And they managed to find a little wreckage 5 days later, and one of its black boxes 2 years later at a depth of 4,000 meters. None of the 228 people on board survived, obviously, and French investigators found the autopilot was disconnected. We don't know why or what happened Um, and apparently it just dropped out the sky for no apparent reason. We don't know why.
Oh,
Egyptair Flight 990 from New York's JFK to Cairo, 1999, went down in the Atlantic. All 217 were lost. Happened in international waters. And the Egyptian authorities did investigate, but so did the American aviation officials as well. And it seemed that the co-pilot might have brought down the plane on purpose, and we're not sure why. Just brought down. Cheers. Tough luck for you. So very weird. So let's talk about one in 2003, the Angola Boeing 727, registered as N844AA, stolen from Quatro de Fevereiro Airport in Luanda, Angola, on the west coast, and it disappeared. Now, how do you steal a 727? I mean, they're not small planes. It's huge.
yeah.
Somebody took it off the tarmac, flew it away, and it's gone. And nobody has ever found it. Now, obviously, this is quite a serious issue because, you know, come on, it's a plane. You can't exactly hide it in your garage. You've got to land it somewhere that's big enough. People tend to notice aeroplanes. So
Those things are really expensive.
that as well.
Looking at some prices today, I was just interested in Boeing 737.
Oh, yes.
And guess how much it cost to buy that plane?
Probably around 14 or 15 million.
It's $120 million.
Okay. I'm not going to buy one this weekend then.
Yeah.
That's
And then I looked at how much money does a plane like that make per year. And it's roughly about $12 million per year.
so you've got to fly one for quite a while to pay it off.
Well, for 10 years, and then you finally paid it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a cheap job. It explains a lot though, because I have a friend that was a mechanic on aircraft, and he was always having to do all sorts of things, but they paid him very well. And I must say, I don't know a lot about the aerospace industry, but I really did think he was paid very well. But if you're going to pay 120 million, yeah, you want the best guy to be looking after your plane.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough,
Yeah, how many houses do you buy?
right? So here's what happened. 25th of May 2003, shortly before sunset, probably around about 5 o'clock Western African time, two men boarded the aircraft. One was Ben C. Padilla and the other was John M. Mutantu. Padilla was a pilot and a flight engineer from the US, and Mutantu was a Congolese French citizen and a mechanic from the DRC. A crew of 3 is required to fly a Boeing 727, and neither was certified to fly it. They then stole the aircraft. They just flew it away. They did not communicate with the control tower. They maneuvered erratically across the runways, got no clearance to enter a runway, which is seriously dangerous. The air traffic controllers tried to make contact and all the rest of it. And they just flew off with it. Now, they had about 50,000 litres of fuel and therefore had a range of about 2,400 kilometres. But nobody's seen the men or the aircraft since, and no debris has ever been found either. So now the guy who flew it, his sister said that they suspected he may have crashed somewhere in Africa and was being held against his will. But then they wonder why. Was he held against his will? Authorities suspected that the other guys that was on his accounting fraud may have played a part as well. We're not sure. So maybe Padilla was in fact forced to fly. We're not sure. Some said that they might have seen the missing aircraft in Guinea, Guinea-Bissau for us guys, but it was later on dismissed as not true by the US State Department. They basically say that it couldn't have gotten that far and we should have been able to find it, and we have enough people around the world that you're not going to hide an aircraft. So either it crashed or there must have been a major government involved with the disappearance, because, I mean, it's a plane.
Yeah.
But nobody knows. Was it a crime? We don't know. Well, let's look at another couple of interesting ones. So Egypt Air Flight 804, 2016. So quite recent. Okay. Now, they did get digital flight data and cockpit voice recorders from the wreckage of the Airbus, which was carrying 66 people from Paris to Cairo. Nobody knows why, for whatever reason, 1 minute it's flying along perfectly happily, and then it just nosedives into the Mediterranean Sea. There's been speculation that there may have been a explosive of some kind on board, but they can't prove that. They say that there could have been a rapid fire, but that's not clear either. All we know is that there was a certain amount of smoke that might have been reported or detected according to sensors at least. But the plane was flying along, took an unusual sharp left turn, and then a 360-degree turn back to the right, and then vanished from radar. Now, that would be a very weird thing for the plane to do if there was fire or explosion. So why would something like that happen? And nobody knows. It just, 1 minute was fine and next minute wasn't. Bye. So there you go. Malaysia flight MH370 disappearing without a trace. A Boeing 777, so one of the biggest planes. 239 people en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. And it captured worldwide attention because the aircraft's final communication was over the South China Sea 38 minutes after takeoff. Military radar showed it flying along quite happily, then suddenly veering dramatically off course and going west towards the Indian Ocean and then disappearing off radar. Now, some people said, well, what if it was starting to run out of fuel? But why would that happen 38 minutes after takeoff? No, they fill things with fuel when they get for those reasons. So that seems very unlikely. There was a huge search. included 334 search flights and a scouring of 46,000 square miles of ocean floor. No wreckage, no plane, no passengers, and no answers. Nobody really knows. There's been no explanation and no conclusion as to how it happened or what happened or why. All we know is that at a point, there was a major manual deviation from flight path. The transponder was turned off. Poof, she's gone. And where were all the passengers? Now, another interesting one is a charter flight operated by the Flying Tiger Line. US Army Rangers were dispatched on a secret mission in the early days of the Vietnam War. And instead of using a military aircraft, they went on a civilian plane. They went from California to Saigon, refueled in Guam in a Lockheed L-1049, and apparently everything was fine. It was all good. They also carried 3 members of the South Vietnamese military, 11 crew members, and it was bound to land at Clark Air Base in the Philippines. Flying conditions were ideal. There was no distress signal whatsoever at all, and the plane simply vanished. It was just gone.
That's crazy.
And we don't know why. So they obviously launched a massive search party, scoured 144,000 square miles, and turned up nothing. An Italian crew aboard an oil tanker reported seeing an intensely luminous explosion in the sky and 2 flaming objects plunging into the ocean. Now we know that another plane crashed in Alaska hours earlier, killing one of the 7 people aboard, and they're wondering if there was sabotage involved, because there was no other reason they could figure. But the problem was they never found the wreckage either. It just disappeared. 1957, Pan Am Flight 7. Again, a Boeing 377 Stratocruiser from San Francisco to Honolulu. 36 passengers and 8 crew on the first leg of an around-the-world flight in the lap of luxury. It's considered to be the ocean liner of the air. 60 inches of legroom. I have never had that on a plane, I'm telling you right now. Not once, not ever. I always end up with my knees around my ears. I believe plane seats are designed by midgets. 60 inches of legroom, hell yeah. That's twice the length of a ruler, if you're wondering. Reclining sleeper seats, a horseshoe-shaped cocktail line, 7-course dinners that included caviar and champagne. It was about halfway through the flight when radar contact just disappeared. No distress call, no nothing, no anything. 5 days of search, the US Navy carrier spotted some floating debris and managed to find 19 bodies about 1,000 miles east of Honolulu. The victims were wearing life vests, indicating the plane had been prepared to hit the ocean, but the aircraft and the remaining 25 people aboard were never found. So nobody knows what happened or why it went down or where everybody else went. Gone. Just like that. So, an interesting set of weirdness. But we have more, because after all, Why wouldn't we have more? And let's see if we can find some spooky ones. Well, of course, not everything has to be spooky, but we do like the spooky way more than the non-spooky, because after all, we like spooky. But not you, spooky.
I feel like spooky.
I have to be mean. It's part of the rules. Look, it's woken up again. Yay. Now we're going to talk about somebody, I think it's pronounced Vesna Vulokovic, a Serbian flight attendant. And this one's just for fun because she didn't disappear and she survived. But here's the thing. She fell from a plane 10,160 meters up with no parachute and survived. So JAT flight 367 had an explosion that tore through the baggage compartment in 1972, and it crashed in Czechoslovakia, part of what is now the Czech Republic. Air safety investigators think that it was in fact a briefcase bomb. Given that this was during the Cold War and this was a hot area, yeah, that's very reasonable. So not a big concern in terms of what happened to the plane. It went down, everybody unfortunately passed away, except for Vulokovic. She was in a coma for days and hospitalized for several months, and she did have a fractured skull, 3 broken vertebrae, broken legs, broken ribs, and a fractured pelvis. And she was temporarily paralyzed from the waist down, but she made an almost complete recovery, though she was left with a limp. She had no memory of the incident and no fear of flying in the aftermath of the crash. But despite her willingness to resume work as a flight attendant, JAT gave her a desk job negotiating freight contracts instead. But she became something of a Yugoslavian celebrity, as you can imagine.
I can.
For all of that, I mean, anybody that can drop 6 miles and not die must have quite a lot of luck. And she only actually passed on in 2016, so she did pretty good for herself, considering. So can you imagine falling 6 miles and not dying?
Yeah.
So that's about 10K. And landed on land, by the way, not in water. It was over Czechoslovakia. But what about people? Now, we know Amelia Earhart disappeared, of course, along with her plane. But what about D.B. Cooper and Jimmy Hoffa? They vanished. Nobody knows why. D.B. Cooper was a hijacker, and Jimmy Hoffa, of course, the famous labor union chief. And foul play might well have been involved, but it seems that these deaths might be something of a cliffhanger. So Cheryl Levitt, her 19-year-old daughter Susanna, and her daughter's friend Stacey McHale, all at a graduation party for the 2 young women in their Missouri town in 1992. Next day, they were gone. All personal possessions were left behind: purses, wallets, car keys. No sign of a struggle. All leads followed up and all attempts to find them have failed. 1 minute, happy party, no reason to go or anything like that, and just gone. And we don't know why. The next interesting one is quite an important one. Harold Holt, Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh,
Now,
shit.
I've got to say that by and large, from a news perspective, the Australian presidents are boring. They are almost always people that pretty much do their job, get on with it, and don't get involved in weird things. If anything, it's one of the best things about Australia. Their politicians are actual politicians. So this
No,
guy was, hey? No?
I disagree. They were
Why?
not hired. They were recruited. They are puppets.
Why? Do you think there's skullduggery in the Australias?
They work for the EU.
Do they though?
Yep.
I'm not
I
sure.
believe so. If you look at their politics, it's similar. They are also busy mass immigrating people to their country, trying to replace the Western civilization with third world people.
That's a very new thing then, because in the past they've always been epically boring. You might be right, I don't know. However, he was known to be a fairly private person, didn't do a great deal of sort of public-y type things outside of work. One day he went for a quiet walk on the beach and disappeared and was never ever seen again. Now, being the Prime Minister, there was a massive search operation that maybe he ran off with a mistress or was captured by the Chinese, was assassinated, but there was no evidence of any of it. Nobody was ever found. He just disappeared. One day there, next day gone. Okay. Why? We don't know. The next interesting one is Ray Gricar, a former Pennsylvania DA, district attorney to us non-Americans. April 2005, about 370 kilometers west of New York City, told his girlfriend he was going for a drive, jumped in his car and was never heard of again. None of the prosecutions that Ray Gricar had done seemed to have sparked any angry response. His car was found with his cell in it, no signs of foul play. His bank accounts and credit cards were never used. His laptop went missing, was later discovered, yielded no leads. He eventually was declared legally dead in 2011. Nobody knows what happened or why.
Oh.
And there was no reason for him to disappear. One day everything's great, he's with his girlfriend, and then poof. Maybe he wouldn't be a puppet, and so the reptilians took him away. Maybe.
Okay.
You know that it's the reptilians, Mickey.
Okay.
Well, one which perhaps is at least a little bit more understandable. You've heard of the Hudson River and Hudson Bay. and the town of Hudson, New York. Well, they were all named after Henry Hudson, a navigator and explorer, and he wanted to find a water route to Asia. And in the summer of 1611, after spending winter in James Bay, which is the southern end of what is now the Hudson Bay between Ontario and Quebec, he urged his crew of the ship the Discovery and set sail westward. They were tired and they were cold, and they mutinied. And so they put Hudson and his teenage son and several others adrift in a small boat, and they were never heard of ever again. We don't know what happened. Just gone. Now here's an interesting question for you. Do you know how Rome gets its name?
No.
You don't? Oh, Mickey's gone. I think her phone died. No. Rome gets its name from Romulus, the person that they claim founded it and was its first king, and incidentally was raised by a wolf. They say he named Rome after himself, which may or may not be the case. Who's to say? Now, his death occurred, he was a real person, and he died in around 717 BC. But how? Because apparently, one day he was there ruling Rome, and the next day he disappeared, and nobody seems to know what happened to him. Could he have been assassinated by jealous politicians? We don't know. He just disappeared. Weirdly
The
enough.
video clip I just tried to show you now was happened yesterday.
Oh,
Somebody
yes?
tried to assassinate a politician
Oh,
with
which
a
one?
rocket launcher in Philippines.
Oh, I read about that. Yes. Interesting.
But did you hear all the stories coming from Afghanistan?
Not
Their
yet.
new laws.
Apparently it's getting very, very, very harsh.
It's very sickening. So they removed schooling for girls. They get primary school, but no high school
It's Shai
and
our Lord.
school. Yeah, and no advanced
Mickey!
education.
Hey,
They've
sorry, my phone.
did it die
And
on
it's
you?
now legal to own slaves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you know where that's going to go, and you know how.
Well, the last time they had slaves, Europe stopped them. England stopped them. But now England has fallen. It's turning into a Muslim country.
Well, not turning into,
So,
it is.
yeah. Well, all the top mayors in the top cities are
Exactly.
Muslims now.
So,
So nobody's going to come and stop Afghanistan, tell them, no, you can't keep slaves.
well, Trump might.
Yeah, Trump might.
I don't know. I think the world is either going to fall apart or it's going to go completely insane. One way or another, it's going to be bad. So hold on tight. Okay, our next guy that went missing, a 6'10" individual. 250 pounds, which for the rest of us is 113 kilograms. Brian Williams, a retired NBA player. He was a musician, a pilot, retired from sport at the age of 30, foregoing millions of dollars so he could travel the world. And in 2002, sailing with his girlfriend, his brother, and another man, who was a Cherokee, simply disappeared. Nobody knows what happens to any of them. The only one who turned up was his brother, who then committed suicide later that year. And police suspect but can't prove. They think that the brother killed them and dumped their bodies at sea, but nobody has ever found any proof or motive. It's just speculation. Gone.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, weird. Now, another one which I thought was interesting, Edward and Stefania Andrews in Chicago. He's an accountant, she's a credit investigator. At a cocktail party at the famous Sheraton Hotel in Chicago in 1970, suddenly left, banging the door of the car on the way out of the parking garage. They turned the wrong way into a one-way street and then disappeared. Nobody found them, nobody found their car, nobody found anything. And 45 years afterwards, the Arlington Heights police were still investigating. The case was never closed, but they never found out what made them suddenly leave, or why they drove so erratically, or where did they go? Nobody knows. Just gone. Now, Tammy Lynn Leppert, aspiring model and actress. There were two serial killers, which included the famous John Crishley, known as the vampire rapist, have been linked to the disappearance of Tammy Lynn Leppert, who was never heard from again after a trip to Cocoa Beach in '83. Police were not able to link the accused men with her, and there was other theories that may have involved drugs and things, that she was pregnant, had mental illness, but all of these things were stories and stuff. All we know is one day she was there, and the next day she was gone. Now, when it comes to serial type peoples, there's some creepy ones out there, and maybe we should do a live on some of them, because there are some good ones. Now, another one which is interesting, simply because it's not the person you would think would be involved in anything. Peter Winston, chess star. Yep.
Oh.
Right.
Wow, okay.
He was an amazing player that suddenly, in a 1977 tournament, completely tanked. They had been treating him with drugs, and we know at the time that the FBI was doing interesting things with tests with drugs, just saying, because in '78, after suddenly dropping out of being in any chess tournament, he vanished. Nobody knows where. His body was never found. He was 19 years old, and he just, poof, gone. Nobody knows why.
That's crazy.
Right? But let's go on to more spooky ones, because we like spooky, I think. Stop laughing at me. I can't help it. Oh, dear. So, the Roanoke Colony. This is a famous story. So John White, the governor of the Roanoke Colony in Virginia, was there when the first English child, his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, was born in the Americas. And shortly after her birth, in August of 1587, White left Roanoke specifically to go to England to get supplies and support. And by the time he returned, the entire colony was gone. But not just the people, the buildings,
Oh, what the
everything.
heck?
The entire place disappeared.
That's weird.
There were no people, there were no empty buildings, there were no sign of buildings. It was just gone. And to this day, nobody has been able to explain what the hell happened in Roanoke.
Bloody hell.
Right? I mean, if the people vanished, you could come up with possible ideas. But
Yeah. I'm
not
trying to think
even.
now because that rings such a bell to me.
Well, it's come up in several horror movies,
Yeah,
and a
probably.
number of. Remember the Sleepy Hollow series?
Yeah.
That they had a whole bunch of different things, not just the Headless Horseman. One of the things they had on that was the Roanoke colonists.
I think it also had, what's it, the movie of the series? Supernatural. Didn't they also
Yes,
talk about
yes, you're
it?
quite correct. It was in
That's
Supernatural.
probably why I'm thinking about it.
Okay, the defining moment, Sam or Dean.
What do you remind
Come
me?
on, everybody has a favorite between Sam and Dean. Which is your favorite?
Oh, Sam or Dean. What the heck? Oh, probably definitely Dean. Sam is a bit of a wussy whistle.
I agree.
He's too
Absolutely.
complicated. He's too worried about what's happening and what's not happening. So.
I agree with that. Dean was the cool one.
Yeah, he
I'm
was
a
pretty
Dean
much like,
person.
whatever is happening, I'll deal with it.
Yeah. What about you, Spooky? Are you a Supernatural fan? Have you watched Supernatural? He's gone. Oh no.
It's slipping.
Maybe we've put him. Maybe I'm really boring and he's fallen asleep.
Okay. Okay.
We're being mean. Okay, so Owen Parfit disappeared from his sister's front porch in the English countryside. He was paralyzed in his 60s, and in the summer of 1763, he simply disappeared. Farm workers were working in a field across the road from there, and they said they saw nobody approach and nobody leave. Because he was paralyzed, there was no way he could have left on his own, and nobody knows where he went or what happened. He was just gone.
That's weird.
Ambrose Bierce, whose writings partly actually inspired HBO's True Detective stories, became a subject of his own mystery stories because he was a mystery writer. In 1913, at 70 years old, he told his friends he was heading to Mexico to join Pancho Villa's revolution. They got a few letters back, and then he was never seen or heard from again. Some think he might have been killed in action. Others think that maybe he was assassinated. Nobody really knows. It was a strange thing, because his body was never found either. And why did he want to go and join Pancho Villa? Nobody knows. Now, Barbara Newhall Follett, a novelist and quite brilliant. She created her own language at age of 8, published her first novel at 13, but was depressed at 25. And in 1939, December, after an argument with her husband, she walked out of her home and was never seen again. Her body was never found. Nobody knows what's happened. And there was an extensive search, because she was a famous person. She was just never seen again. And nobody knows how or why. Gone. Very strange. Paula Jean Weldon, a Bennington College sophomore, out for a long walk in 46, never came back. What made things more complicated was that Vermont didn't have a state police at the time, and a local man did brag to his friends he knew where the body was buried, but it turned out he was all talk. He didn't know, he was just looking for attention. And here's the thing. That was one of what is now understood to be called the Bennington Triangle, because lots of people that go there simply disappear and their bodies are never discovered again. So, supernatural connections, or maybe a stay-at-home serial killer, who's to say? I like the idea, nevertheless.
Yeah.
Now, not only did people disappear in Bennington, in the Bennington Triangle, they did it often. 3 years after Paul Jean Weldon, James Tetford vanished in the same region. He was last seen dozing away on a crowded bus, which was moving. When it arrived at Bennington, he wasn't on the bus, and all of his belongings still were. They've never found a body, and the bus hadn't stopped.
Creepy.
So there are places around the world where things vanish. Things are not all that they seem. Could it be time slips? Could it be parallel universes? Or maybe some kind of supernatural horror that sucks you away? We don't know, but people keep disappearing with no reason whatsoever, which is pretty cool. Now, the next thing is a merchant vessel, a boat, the MV Joyita from Samoa for the Tokelau Islands. And in 1955, October, it left and never ever reached its destination. However, the ship was found again, drifting.
Oh.
No crew, no cargo, no passengers. People thought maybe piracy, maybe a problem, but there seems to have been nothing, no trace ever found, no evidence of the cargo turning up or anything, and surely something would be found because it was just empty.
That's so weird.
So, we don't know, and I like that. Now, 1966, 3 young women in bathing suits got in a small motorboat on Lake Michigan for a little joyride. Why not? Apparently, according to a crime reporter, they were headed to a floating abortion clinic in order to deal with things that wasn't legal. But according to him, something must have gone wrong, and so they were removed to eliminate witnesses. Now, they've never found the boat, the girls, or anything like that. Just gone. And nobody knows why. So, was it that? 79. 5 friends took a small boat called the Sarah Joe out from Maui. And of course, unfortunately, it turned out to be into what was one of Hawaii's worst storms. They never returned, obviously, but 10 years later, the boat floated up on the Marshall Islands next to the grave of one of the missing men. Who buried him? How did he get there? And where were the other two men? And how did they get all the way to the Marshall Islands? Nobody knows.
Weird.
So, wait a minute. What? Is there secret stuff going on that we don't know about? Maybe. Tom Young and Keith Reinhardt, 1987. Tom Young vanished near Silver Plume, Colorado. A year later, his body was found with an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. At the same time, journalist Keith Reinhardt became fascinated with the story and began writing a novel about it. In 1988, he went for a hike in that area and disappeared. It seems that whatever happened to Tom Young, they didn't want things written about it, okay?
Yeah.
We don't know. Jody Haysom Street. An Iowa news anchor was abducted from her apartment complex parking lot on her way to work in 1995. Signs of a struggle, her shoes, earrings, and car keys scattered near the vehicle, palm prints and a hair collected at the scene. Nobody could solve the crime, and nobody knows what happened, why it happened, or where she may have been taken, or to whom the evidence found belonged to. We just don't know. So there you are. Some interesting ones, at least. What do you think? Are they suitably weird?
Yeah, it's really creepy, for sure.
Now, there are more. Let's see if we can find the really creepy ones. Oh, do you remember 2007, the big worry of Madeleine McCann? She's never been found.
Oh yeah, I remember.
There was a rash of kidnappings of small blonde children. And I remember that my best friend had a sister who was small and blonde at the time. And the mother was, of course, extremely panicked about the whole thing. Some people have said that it may or may not have been connected to the whole Epstein thing, but nobody really knows. They never found bodies, they never found nothing, and I remember it being a big deal at the time. And because we were older, if she wanted to go out, us boys had to go with her. So it became one of those situations where the parentals told us straight, you don't get to go out, ever, anywhere, unless you take her with. If you don't go out with her, yeah. So her and her friends became the sort of the sidekicks to us. And as you probably can guess, at the age of sort of 15, having your younger sister along with you,
It's not
it didn't go very well. So, I don't know. It's just one of those things, I suppose. Now, where are my... Oh, there was an interesting one of a woman that simply vanished one day in America, in Chicago. There was a massive manhunt, couldn't be found, eventually was declared dead. March of 2003, she was found alive and well in Puerto Rico. Nobody knows why she chose to just disappear.
That's odd.
Yeah. And she won't tell. So, I mean, it wasn't a crime to disappear, so they couldn't force her.
Yeah, they couldn't really exactly.
So what do? Now, let's talk about the 411 cases. A series of strange and mysterious disappearance in national parks and remote wilderness areas. Called so because it was 411 cases, all investigated by David Paulides. Now, usually children, but sometimes adults who are experienced outdoor enthusiasts who simply vanish without a case. They call it the Oz effect, where there's a very strange, complete silence in the area, no evidence whatsoever, and the victims are just gone. No footprints, no scent trails for search dogs. They always seem to happen in remote areas. Many of the people are actually very skilled, and you would think would absolutely be able to handle anything. They say that there is no wildlife or movement in the area when they go in looking. It's like all of the wildlife has spooked and vanished, moved away for a temporary time.
Crazy.
They made a documentary on it, which I actually would like to see, called The Missing 411, The Hunted, because a number were even hunters and things and were armed at the time. Now, the investigator was a chap who was a former police detective, so he knew what he was doing. He was good at it. And they just don't know. And why would the animals leave the area? And we're talking everything, birds, insects, everything. As if something really scary went there and just,
Yeah. It's
a very, very strange situation. I like spooky things like that. But as we go along, other strange things that we can't explain, which I want to get into for the next live, is going to include mysteries that baffle. And they include a number of murders, a number of poltergeists, which I'm rather looking forward to be honest.
Oh yeah, especially.
We like poltergeists, let's be fair. And a few other really strange things. And this I think was prompted, I was watching a TikTok this morning, and this guy had one of those apps on his cell phone, which supposedly are supposed to be able to pick up ghosts talking to you. So he obviously decided to try this thing out, and he's walking through a graveyard. And he was saying that, well, I got this app and I've been downloading it and I want to see if it works and what have you. And I tried a graveyard near where my house is, but it turns out that graveyard is very new. So there's no chance of it being haunted for varying reasons. And somebody told me that, no, of course I won't get anything there. It's a modern graveyard. So I came out to this one. I forget which one it was, but it was a very, very old American graveyard where it's been through the Civil War and. So clearly plenty of opportunity for ghosts to develop. So he's wandering along, and a little bit cocksure of himself. He's like, come on guys, I'd like you to talk to me. I'm here. I want to make contact with you. And all of a sudden, his phone goes, I'm right behind you.
Oh shit.
So he stops and he's like, nah, this is the kind of shit that they do with these apps just to scare you. So he says, so what's your name? And the thing says, my name is Bonnie. He's like, okay, Bonnie, where are you? And she says, look left. And he looks left, and the gravestone right there on his left was for Bonnie. And he's like, oops, hold on. And then he said, at this point, I think we shall leave the live there for now and maybe come back another time. And I think he ran away scared. Because you could hear his voice was like, It went from,
Oh,
yeah, this is all bullshit, to, oh shit. There with a brown streak all the way out the graveyard.
Oh, shame.
So I started thinking, what kinds of things are out there, and can you contact the other side?
I'm sure you can.
I want to put this to you, and I'd like your opinion from both of you on this. So the first point, I don't know, okay, I don't know for any certainty at all. The first view is that, yes, when you try to contact the deceased, you can. Okay, so when Bonnie spoke to this guy, it was Bonnie, and she was lurking around her gravestone. Okay. The second theory is that most ghosts or most deceased never become ghosts, and the only ones that do are generally angry for some reason or upset in some way, which means that yes, you can contact ghosts, but no, it's not a good idea. And we do know that a great many religions will tell you, don't do it, for all varying reasons. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. A third version that I was told by somebody is, no, when you die, you move on. There are no ghosts. What you're getting is a demon, and they're trying to trick you. Okay, and a fourth version that I was told is it could be one of the creature races that exist alongside humanity, which we now, well, some call them the fairies, some call them the jinn, etc., etc. Okay, so those are our different options. Which do you think it is and why? And you also have to give answer to the question we left you with in the last live. What do you think the creature might be that lives alongside us? What our version in South Africa. So in the Middle East you have the jinn. In Europe you have varying things, like Britain is the Tuatha De Danaan, and so on and so forth. Everybody's got one, it seems.
Are we talking about a black stick man?
Well, that might be. That might be our one.
That's pretty much something I believe, you know. If you talk about it, you believe in it, you're gonna see it. That's the thing.
Well, I know people that don't believe in any of that stuff at all,
Really?
who have seen it. So, is that our version of the fairy? What do you say, Spooky?
I don't know.
And if you use some kind of communication device, whatever it is, what do you think we get?
I don't know.
Mickey? Ghosts? Demons?
First, I do think that maybe, there probably are spirits that do not go to heaven or hell straight away. They do linger, obviously. Unfinished business kind of thing. I talk about this mainly because of The Conjuring. Oh, sorry. Drop my phone.
Oh no.
The Conjuring, the second movie, number 2. It is based on true story anyway. So, where a demon did try and hide behind a spirit, type of thing.
Well, I am in more than one mind in this. First of all, I do think there are ghosts out there. I know for fact, at least in my experience, that very few ever become ghosts. But ghosts do happen. So there are not like millions of them, of everybody. It's only a few. I do think there are more things out there than just ghosts, and there is a chance if you start using these devices, you might get a ghost and you might get something else. It's hard to say. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got to be reasonable.
Question.
So I think that there are possibilities. I have often thought that what we call the black stick man, what I always have thought of as the Chianti, I do think they are our version of that. Because there are differences. So if you compare the descriptions of the fairy, the Tuatha De Danann, if you compare them to the descriptions of the jinn, there's a lot of similarities, but they're not quite the same. But you might say it's kind of in the same way that if you took a Zulu person and compared them to an American Indian, there's a lot of similarities, but they're not quite the same. So it's almost as if it's the same kind of thing in a way, just as all different humans are the same, but not quite. But it's a different version of that, if that makes sense. So that's my thinking. That maybe different places have slightly different versions of it. And that ours in this country is that shadow type thing. But then, of course, it begs the following question. We know that while they can appear as no more than shadows, whether they're fairy or jinn or whatever, they have got a form that is their form. So the jinn are noted to be specifically fiery-eyed, bronze-skinned, quite tall beings. The fairy also are noted to be tall, but tend to have golden eyes. The Nunahe, the Native American version, have pale white eyes. Moon-eyed ones, they're called. But again, pretty much the same description, can appear as shadows. So owls, what would they look like in their normal form? And how would we recognize them? Yes?
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty.
Say what you were thinking.
No, I'm just thinking.
It's a weird question, but after all of the stuff that we've looked at on the live, you've got to admit you start wondering these things, that it could be, and if it was, how would it work? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, by and large, the only stories really in the past of jinn, as we know them, come from the Middle East until enough people started moving to other countries.
Yeah.
Almost as if they moved as well. Prior to that, all your stories are like the local version, not the foreign version, if that makes sense. So stories of the fairy, but not of jinn, though they're similar, but not quite.
Yeah. That's true. I must look for that movie for you to watch. Because I'm pretty convinced of what I'm talking about. When I say the shadow people, is how it's contagious. Because it's happened.
Well,
Like,
here's the thing. While I have definite cases of non-believers seeing them, there definitely seems to be a link that if you speak of them, it attracts their attention.
yeah,
there's
because I think it's definitely
Yes.
it's definitely happened with me because people I know personally, I've told the story to, they have seen it and they've never encountered like anything weird like in their lives. So it's been kind of, creepy as heck.
It's an interesting thing. Uh, can we make them appear by talking about them? Well,
I
I mean,
really think so.
think about this. In all fairness, you know the urban creepypasta of Bloody Mary. You have to
Yeah.
say her name 3 times. How many cultures and countries have got a story like that you actually have to speak of them for them to appear? I mean, even
Yeah.
before cell phones and rubbish like that, in the old Irish legends and the Scottish legends, in British legends, they say you never speak of them. And that's why they talk of the fair folk, to avoid saying their name. The good people. Because you don't want to say their name because it attracts their attention. I mean, that could well be the case. I don't know. But there you go. There's the thoughts for you. So we will have to come back in the next one and talk about some of these creepier and stranger mysteries that may be poltergeists or more, and we shall see. So if you've been on,
Sure.
thank you. I do appreciate, especially Spooky and Mickey for being on with me. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for the likes. Remember, we do this channel entirely based on your support. So your likes, shares, subscribes, and all the rest of it matter greatly. Thank you very, very much. And we will be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock with more creepy and strange and weird. And I shall look forward to seeing you then. Thank you
Thanks
so
for the
much.
love.
Cheers,
Cool.
cheers, cheers.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Nighty night.
Good night.